Hello everybody! Yeah, it's Beardy MacBeardface again. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. If you can remember from about a year ago, we did something special, okay, a little silly, in episode 100. And episode 200 is coming up, and it will be even sillier. You can look forward to that. After that, channel's going to take a little bit of a break. Don't know how long, maybe a month, maybe a bit longer. If there's really pressing news, like Beta 6 coming out, I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise us. Then, yeah, I'll report on it, but there won't be regular episodes. Talking about that, I've been maintaining Monday and Friday episodes, but I told you at the beginning of the year, I don't know how long I'm going to keep that up. And yeah, so I find myself here on a Thursday, and now I need an episode for tomorrow morning. Normally I try to work a couple of weeks ahead, but I've been busy. So, I've come up with a little scenario. Your buddy comes up and he says, I've got an old computer that's not really in use at the moment, and I'd like to try this Haiku thing that you are always going on about. And I've installed it. Now, what program should I get? But wait. I want to use the programs that I'm used to. Programs that in my muscle memory. I want to be able to transfer my settings. Okay. So we're talking about ports. So today I'm going to go through 8 programs that you can then say, well, try these. These are not necessarily my recommendations. These are possibilities. They're not necessarily my favorites either. And they're just, a list. It's a bit of an overview of how far have we come that we've managed to port, because we've had no outside help here, of major open source programs. And we're talking about the big guns here. You'll see. So by the magic of video editing, that list there on the one side, I think for you it's that side, is going to grow magically without me typing it in. No, there's no list yet, but there will be. And so here it is, 8 major open source programs that we've ported. When I say we, I'm very generously including myself in there. I mean, members of the community have ported. And thank you very much, guys. Because even if you compare to just a year or 2 ago, this list will show you just how close Haiku actually is to being your daily driver, the only operating system you need on a computer to get real work done. And I'm talking about programs that you can use to create documents, pictures, etc. Not to play things back. I don't really care which media viewer you prefer to use. You know, I mean, install, try it out. But if you want to create music, documents, images, or not create from scratch, but edit them, let's go. Oh, sorry, we're back. Okay, first thing you need is an office suite. Actually, no, you don't. Everybody needs a word processor. I occasionally need a spreadsheet. Well, I don't really do conferences and things anymore, so I don't really need a presentations thing anymore. Full relational database is a bit rich for my blood. Well, I prefer flat file, but nowadays it all has to come together in a sheet. You can't just download the individual programs anymore, right? Way of the world. So, what do we got on Haiku? LibreOffice. Yeah. Now, I've done a video on that before. Well, no, I did a series of videos. I compared the word processors, I showed the spreadsheets, etc. And now, LibreOffice is a fork of OpenOffice, which used to be called StarOffice. On my FreeDOS system, I've got a program called StarWriter for DOS, which comes out of the 80s, and it looks, let me just grab that, like that. That's actually version 2, so there was a version 1 before that. Notice, 1993. I think that's impressive. I mean, so we're talking about something that's been in development for 50 years in the computer world that's like the Precambrian. Guess what? That's not the oldest version. There's a version of StarWriter for CP/M dating back to 1985. Come on, be a little bit impressed. Okay, so having gotten that little bit of history out of the way, I used to be a professor of religious history, so history, yeah. Okay, what can we say about it? Okay, you're gonna have to forgive me if I look away to my other monitor because I don't want to clutter the screen too much. But the current version of LibreOffice on other operating systems is 25.8.1. And the one we've got on Haiku is 24.8.1. Okay, I'm reading that off the Haiku depot. So, the way these numbers work, we are 1 year behind. Because it takes time to port these things and to check that the new ported version has compiled correctly, etc. And so basically we've got the version that was available on Windows, Linux, Mac OS a year ago. And There was nothing wrong with that version. We're doing pretty well on that. Yeah. I mean, everybody was happy running last year's LibreOffice. So it's not like we ported it once and we never updated it. Nope. We're a year behind. Okay, let's see what's next. Right, graphics. We have the GIMP, the GNU Image Manipulation Program. Okay, and is it an old version? It's 3.04. It's the same version that you can get for other operating systems. We're right up to date with that one. GIMP, not as old as LibreOffice, but it's been around for a while. And you know, it does, I don't know, maybe 95% of what Adobe will do for you. Adobe Photoshop. It does have a interface that takes a while to learn. Always has. And with every new major version, they say, no, the interface is child's play now. No. You know, but it is learnable. There are people working on it. Yeah, and professional graphics designers tell you that there are a couple of tiny little things that prevent them from using GIMP rather than Photoshop. Yeah, so yeah, that's a major program, and we have it, and it runs on Haiku. Okay, before we go on, when I say it runs, it's a port of a big program. It takes some horsepower. You know, so any of these programs will run in a virtual machine. Run 2 or 3 of them together and your patience will be tested. Yeah. So this list is really for running Haiku on an actual computer. We'll consider more lightweight alternatives in another episode. Oh, great, I have to make another episode. Probably not next Monday, but sometime soon. Web browser. Pretty much the center of computing activity these days. And a year ago, I would have hum and haw. But we now have 4 different Firefox-based browsers. We don't have Firefox itself because copyright, blah, blah, blah. But we do have Iceweasel. Now, maybe one of the others, you know, Floppy, LibreWolf, what is the 4th one? I forget. I'll think of it. It's probably ice and some other animal. And, you know, so give it a try. It's still got rough edges here and there, you know, especially around the mouse cursor. But yeah, it works. And This is, however, going to be the one case in which I say we have our own browser, web positive. And it is lightning fast. It flashes onto the screen. Right? You're looking at your first website while Iceweasel is still loading. That's inevitable. You see how many libraries Iceweasel has to put into memory. You know, so also from a more tactical point of view, websites need to see web positive as a browser. They need to see that it's in use, that they have to keep it in mind when they design. You know, so it's tactically important for us to use web positive. And also, if we don't use web positive, it's not going to get improved. We need to report back, you know, crash reports, complaints on the forum, so that its developers know that this is what's going on. So this is the one case in which I would say, try to use web positive as much as you can, then fall back on Iceweasel, or one of the other three. Of course, we've got a lot of other browsers, Falcon, Doobel, you know, but for the purposes of this discussion, install Iceweasel. Okay, so you've found an old buddy that you haven't seen for 20 years. He's got a website and there's an email address on it. Okay, let's pop him an email. Hey Dave, remember, it's me. How are you going to do that? Haiku has its own email system. And I found it a bit tricky to set up. Once you get it set up, it works nicely. But we're talking about major ports here, so one industrial strength email program, of course, is Thunderbird. And that also has a very long history. It's an old program. Sometimes you can see it in the design choices, but it always works. And we haven't got Thunderbird. What? Sorry, my capture program just stopped for no reason whatsoever. What we have is IceDove, which is a straight port of Thunderbird. So Thunderbird at the moment is at version 1.23 and we are at 1.21. So nothing in it. What is great about having this is you can have Thunderbird on your Linux or Mac OS or, heavens forbid, Windows box, and you know, you can replicate the same settings on Haiku in IceDove. You know, I really wish they'd not pick that particular name, because I always confuse them. IceDove, Iceweasel. Okay, I'll admit it, I made this entire video segment talking about Iceweasel instead of IceDove. Yeah, but okay. Haiku does email. come on. Spoken about bitmap graphics when I suggested the GIMP. However, that's not the only kind of graphics. There are also vector graphics. We have Inkscape. Not only do we have Inkscape, we've got the current version, 1.4.2. Bang up to date. Yay for Haiku. From vector graphics, you naturally move into 3D design and animation. And for that we have a well-known open source program called Blender. I have not done a video on Blender, and I probably never will, because that program makes me feel very inadequate. Yeah, I'm not really good at vector graphics, and I really am not good at 3D graphics. That's me. The program itself is incredibly powerful. And yeah, there are, so we say, semi-professional studios at least that use Blender to create graphics for movies. Now, this time we are a bit behind. The current version of Blender is 4.5.3, and what we've got is 3.3.21. So yeah, this time we're nowhere near the cutting edge. Now that version is a few years old. Yeah, you win some, you lose some. But, you know, people used Blender version 3 for years and years, created all sorts of stuff with it. So yeah, it's still a very powerful program. When you created your movie in Blender, your animation, you probably want to add some sound to it. Do we have a sound editor? Yep. Audacity. And here we are again, pretty close to the bleeding edge. The current version is 3.75. We've got 3.71. Yeah. Not really worth complaining about. I think I must make a little video about Audacity at some stage. I don't think we've done. Well, we have OpenShot. And we're just one minor version behind. The current version is 3.3, I think, and we've got 3.2. So, yeah, nothing to worry about there. Right. So that's our little roundup of really big, major, open source ports that you can run on Haiku. Now, one little thing before I forget, for some reason, we seem to have more than one, sorry about that, this is jumping a bit, more than one version of OpenShot on Haiku Depot. There's 2.4 and 3.1. So just look carefully which one you're actually installing. But as I said, these are big, heavy programs. They're not native, they run slowly. They need some serious horsepower behind them. But let's go back to the beginning. What if this friend of yours says, I want to try it out in a VM before I commit to anything. What lightweight, preferably native programs can you recommend to him in those same categories? That will be the question we ask in a future episode. See you then.